just making spaces safer for your child, especially when they're young, can go a really long way in helping
Mhm.
you prevent injury down the line, making it safe for them to explore and have, potential avenues for fun and safe play without risk can help you reduce your stress levels too.
This episode is sponsored by Consumer Reports, your go-to for unbiased reviews on everything from baby gear to home essentials. They do the testing so you don't waste time or money. For a special offer for my listeners, head to cr.org/therunningymom because informed choices makes life easier. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. There's a moment in parenting, usually somewhere between your baby's first roll and their first fearless climb, when you realize something important. The world inside your home isn't nearly as safe as you thought it was. And suddenly you're questioning everything: the cabinets, the stove knobs, the stairs, even the places that once felt familiar and harmless. I'm joined today by Jessica Waller, a safety expert at Consumer Reports, whose work helps families make smarter, calmer decisions backed by real testing and real data. Together, we're talking about what actually matters when it comes to baby proofing, room by room, age by age, and how to protect our kids without living in constant fear. This episode is for every parent who wants to do their best without losing their mind. So without further ado, let's welcome Jessica. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk all about baby safety. But before we talk about that, we start each episode with our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and share our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So, Jessica, what is your drinking wine of the week?
I grew up in Maryland, and there's a really small vineyard there that I really love. It's so beautiful. It's run by a family, I think two sisters and a brother, and they have these really like small batch beautiful wines. They're called Old Westminster Winery, and one of my favorite things they produce are these canned wines that are so lovely to take on like little picnics or bike trips. And there's one called Seeds and Skins, I think, that's like sort of like an orange wine. It's delicious.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check that out because I am on the East Coast and I know like I love trying local-ish, even though I'm Philadelphia area, but I'll definitely keep my eye out for that. So thank you. And what is your complaint wine of the week?
So I'm a runner as well, and I love to get out on the trails, but I'm in upstate New York and it's so icy lately. I actually fell on the ice this morning walking my dog, which was a real bummer.
Oh,
So it's been, yeah, hard to get out there and do my usual routines,
yeah.
but trying.
I know. I mean, I'm sure it's colder where you are, but it's just been terrible being inside nonstop and not being able to get out. So I am ready for the warm weather as well. So, what is your win of the week?
So my win of the week is that my kids started snow sports for the first time last week. They one of my sons started skiing and one started snowboarding, and it was a really heavy lift, especially as a non-skier and non-snowboarder parent myself, just to get them all the things that they needed to do and to reduce their own anxiety about trying a new thing that they've never done before. But we had a really great first lesson, and they both did so well, and they were super resilient, and so I'm counting that as a win. It was great.
That's so fun. I can't wait till I am brave enough to do that with my kids, but I'm not quite brave enough yet.
It's a big lift for everybody,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, before we dive into all of the baby safety, tell us about yourself and the role you play in child safety and consumer advocacy.
But I am a reporter for Consumer Reports. I primarily cover baby gear and baby safety. And that looks like reporting on CR's latest tests on car seats and strollers, as well as baby food, infant formula. And I also write about safe sleep and nutrition in general. I have a master's degree in clinical nutrition, and I'm also a certified child passenger safety technician. So I can install your car seat for you, which both of those things help inform my reporting. But I'm very passionate about helping families make evidence-based informed decisions for their child's safety and health.
And so, this article that just came out, can you talk a little bit about it and what do families need to know about these testings? And how did you guys decide how to test the baby proofing products?
At Consumer Reports, we have a long history of testing all types of products, from household appliances like laundry machines and refrigerators to cars, of course. And we've started testing baby gear, and we haven't tested baby proofing products in the past. So this was a new foray for us. So our child safety experts and technicians created their own rigorous tests to just determine how helpful these baby proofing products actually are. So you're not just going blindly on Amazon and, selecting the one that's sponsored or recommended to you. We actually have evidence-based rigorous testing behind everything from cabinet locks to doorknob covers, safety gates, stove knob covers, and all of the things you could possibly want for your home to make it a little bit safer for your baby or young child. So we did real world testing. We pulled on them, we tugged on them, we tried to mimic what a toddler is capable of, tried to cut through these marketing claims so that parents can find the products that actually work and will be durable over time, focusing specifically on safety performance and ease of installation. Because we know that if a product is hard or frustrating for an adult to use, it's not going to get used. They're not going to install it.
Right. Yes, exactly. And I actually just started working with a company called Lush Life AI, and they kind of like what Consumer Reports does in, so we don't have to do the research. They use a lot of Consumer Reports testing to help you decide on the best products. Like it has a safety score, and I've seen that Consumer Reports is used in that. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you knew that that website existed, but yeah. So parents often think that baby proofing starts once the babies start crawling. They're like, oh, they're crawling and now we need to baby proof. But your work said you should start earlier. So what do parents misunderstand most about when danger actually begins?
In my conversations with pediatric ER doctors and our child safety advocates at Consumer Reports, I've come to the conclusion that baby proofing is all about prevention and not reaction. So I, baby proofed my house for my own kids when they were smaller and probably waited too long to start. But I would recommend that if you are able, you start as soon as you're ready. As soon as you can even start in pregnancy with some things, which looks like, anchoring heavy furniture or things that are tip over risks for your child. Babies can start reaching for things and grabbing cords as young as 3 months. And so securing those wires and cords early on is helpful so that you're not playing catch up when it comes to your baby's new learned skills and milestones. You want to start having those systems and tools in place before you actually need them so that they're there for you to rely on. And then, of course, it's also about reassessing those strategies because your 4-month-old is going to be very different in terms of what they need protection from as opposed to your 14-month-old or your
Hmm.
4-year-old even. So it doesn't really end, it just changes. And that can get overwhelming for parents. So I put together a room by room and age by age checklist for CR. So it breaks down all of those really helpful habits in like bite-sized chunks for parents to look at piece by piece.
And I felt like it definitely did that job in the article. It was really easy to read and take pieces that maybe if you're like, I just want to baby proof the kitchen, or I don't really care about what I need to do with my toddler because I'm so overwhelmed. I want to think about what I want to do with my child at this age. So I really did. I loved the way the article broke everything down easily for parents. So what problems were you seeing over and over again in the real families that you were researching?
Parents, of course, have so much on their plates. There's so much to do from morning till night, and baby proofing can feel like just one more thing to add to that
Hmm.
ever increasing to-do list. So, it's a lot of overwhelm and stress and just feeling, bogged down by all of the tasks that you have to do. So, I want to share with parents that you don't have to baby proof your entire house. Just as you said, you can start with one room and you don't have to do it all at once. I like to help families focus on the highest risk areas first and then assess what they need going forward from there. So start with the room where your baby spends the most time, and that's probably where they're sleeping, the nursery, or whether they're room sharing with you, and making sure that your bedroom is a safe place for a baby or young child. And then every time your child reaches a new milestone, maybe they're starting to pull up to stand, or maybe they're cruising along furniture, then you want to take further action to prevent before you have an issue.
And what surprised you the most about the testing process?
I think just how hard some of these products can be to use, even for grown-ups. I personally did some of the testing for this report, which was really fun. I got to go into the Consumer Reports labs and test out everything that our lead product tester, Jose, worked on. And I had such a hard time uninstalling doorknob covers. They are incredibly frustrating to uninstall and remove.
Yes.
It's just a pain. I don't know who designed these things, but there are some that are better than others. And so those, floated to the top of our ratings so that parents can know, like, you will be able to get this off eventually,
Hmm.
versus the ones that are just impossible and you end up breaking them in the process. But I also learned that, because doorknob covers can be so frustrating, it's essential that you don't use them on outside facing doors. They can only be used safely on indoor interior doors. If your child is, an escape artist and you want to block off access to those exit doors, use a top latch that you can place higher up than they can reach to slide those off, but try not to use an actual doorknob cover for those exterior doors.
And so after we've baby proofed, we do get this false sense of security. How do you get past that as well as a parent?
That's a great question because, we install these products and we hope that they work and we trust that they'll work, but they may not always work, especially if you've got a really active kid who's, pulling and tugging and using them all the time, or if you are constantly going in and out of a safety gate, unlatching it, latching it, it could weaken over time too. So you
Hmm.
want to check them regularly. One of the best tips I got from my reporting was to, crawl around on all fours if your baby is looking at the world from that level and see what you're not seeing from your, bird's eye view above, just to put yourself in their shoes literally and try to see what risks are there.
That's so smart. And I feel as though I totally would have done that. If I would have had that tip when
Yeah.
my kids were young, I would be crawling around.
So helpful.
So I know you said to focus on the rooms that the kids spend in the most time, but do you have any other advice for which room statistically carries the highest risk as opposed to maybe where they spend the most time in?
I think it depends on your home and your setup. Of course, kitchens can carry high risk because of cooking and burn risks with stoves and, boiling pots of water for macaroni and cheese or pasta. If a handle is, tilted out and a kid bumps it, that whole pot is going to come down, which is terrifying. So there's big risks there. And then anywhere where there's medication or cleaning products, if you can curb access to those, whether with a cabinet lock or a doorknob cover, so so the child can't even access that room, that can be helpful too. Of course, bath time is always a situation where you want to be supervising every second because drowning risk is very real and one of the top causes of accidental injury or death in children. So I would say, yeah, kitchen and bathroom are high risk areas, but stairs also, any risk of where a child could fall, a safety gate can be really helpful.
Yeah. And in your research, what's the most common household injuries that could have been prevented with earlier or smarter baby proofing?
I mean, things are going to happen. Kids are going to get bumps and bruises no matter what you do. But I think one of the simplest things a parent or caregiver can do is to anchor those heavy pieces of furniture. So bookshelves, dressers, credenzas and cabinets, even TVs are a big tip over risk and could severely injure or crush a small child, which is something nobody wants to ever think about. But it just
Mhm.
takes a second with a hardware kit, an anti-tip hardware kit, and CR has tested those too. So we have ratings and reviews on the strongest ones and the most effective ones on our website. And then also, I would say, don't overlook homes where your child spends time too. If they're going to a grandparent's house or other caregiver's house regularly, I would send them this checklist as well to help them, familiarize themselves with the biggest risk areas and how they can set up safe play zones and safe sleep zones for your child at their places as well.
And as I mentioned, I love the way that this guide is broken down by age. So for parents of infants, what's the biggest future risk they should be prepared for before it shows up?
It's hard to say because every baby is different and grows and develops at a different rate, of course. But if I had an infant today, I would probably take steps to secure any loose cords or wires. Baby monitors come with very long cords, and we place them in the infant's nursery or over their crib or bassinet. So I would make sure that those cords are securely tucked and even used hardware to install them so that they're safe from reaching hands and arms. Making sure that that heavy furniture is anchored to the wall, removing any blinds or curtain ties or any cords that are dangling down in that sense, and then just doing that floor level scan to look for small objects. High powered magnets and batteries, especially button batteries, are a really dangerous risk for babies and infants. Older kid toys like Legos or small marbles can be a choking hazard or risk. So just, it's tough as a parent. You've got a lot to worry about already, but just keeping an eagle eye on what could potentially be a choking hazard or strangulation risk is really important for your baby's safety.
How about our fearless toddlers? What's the number one danger zone parents underestimate during this stage?
So I talked to a pediatric ER doc, and she was like, toddlers are danger ninjas. They will go to great lengths to get what they want. And so she was like, as soon as you have your back turned, they're off to the races. So try to set up those safer play zones for them where you can, take a little bit of a breather. Not that you can rely on a baby gate or a freestanding enclosure to supervise your kid for you, but you can rest assured that they're probably okay if you need to answer a phone call or something. But I would say that your toddler is always watching you as well. And if there's a toy or a remote or something that they want to play with that you've taken away, they're probably looking to see where you're placing it. And the second that you turn away, they're going to scale that bookshelf to get it. So just be mindful of where you're hiding the things that you don't want them to play with because they're on.
Yes, so true. I'm thinking of my kids doing exactly what you just said. You put something somewhere and they're trying to grab at it. So many parents feel overwhelmed between safety, development, and really just surviving the days, especially in those early years. How do you recommend prioritizing safety without spiraling into fear? To add it to the list of things we have to fear.
Yeah, there's so much. I would say make sure that your baby or child has a safe place to sleep first and foremost. So, safe infant sleep practices are very helpful in reducing the risk of SIDS and SUID. So, ensuring that is number one. Making sure your baby has a has a safe way to travel and a well-fitting, well-secured car seat is number two, and then a safe way to bathe. So, an infant bathtub or an appropriate age appropriate way to give them a bath is those are my top three, super important. And then again, you don't have to baby proof your entire house, but make sure you've got, doorknob covers on the doors where you don't want them to enter. If it's your bedroom or an older sibling's room, stove knob covers can be helpful for the kitchen. Cabinet locks we've tested as well. Those are really helpful to prevent little hands from reaching inside and getting things that they shouldn't, like cleaning supplies or dishwasher pods, whatever it may be. And then just reassessing as time goes on, knowing that like if you've got corner guards on your coffee table now, you might need them on your countertops later as your child grows and gets taller and starts to bump their head in different places. But you
Mhm.
can't prevent every single injury or risk from happening, but you can take steps toward that prevention. So it's just about prevention and not perfection, I would say.
Yeah, and that's what my next question was going to be. We parents feel guilty about pretty much everything. And especially there is guilt attached to accidents, even the minor ones. From your perspective, how can parents reframe safety as preparation versus, again, being scared to have your child be injured?
Every parent that I've ever spoken to, my family, my close personal friends have all had, a safety close call or injury or issue that they wish they could have gone back to prevent. They wish they could, rewind the tape and done things differently. And that's always going to happen. I mean, parents are doing their best. It's really hard. It's a challenging time. You're in the trenches, but just taking the time to reduce risks where you can is I think going to help your worry and stress levels enormously. Just taking that time to block off those hazards. And, it's not going to be like you have to turn your entire house into a bubble. Like you don't have to bubble wrap your child, but just taking these steps, I think, can go a long way.
Yeah. And so what would you say to the parent who thinks, oh, my house is small, or I'm always watching them, I never leave the room, and feels that baby proofing is unnecessary?
I would say that baby proofing is just about reducing risk and trying to stay one step ahead of your child. I know I personally found it very stressful to try to keep a close eye on my kids at all hours of the day, and it's impossible. So just taking those small steps now to help prevent an issue down the line can go a long way. Anchoring those heavy pieces of furniture, I would say, is a top priority, and then locking the cabinets and doors you don't want them to access. If that's all you want to do, then that's great. You've already taken some really key important steps toward your baby's safety.
And if you were to walk into a new parent's home right now, what are the first three things, of course, without judgment, that you would check in their home to ensure that they are safe?
I would say making sure that they have a safe place to sleep, a firm, flat mattress with no toys, blankets, crib bumpers, anything in that sleeping space. Making sure that they have a safe play area free from tiny objects. Babies are notorious for exploring with their mouths and hands, and making sure that they aren't able to reach anything too small that could be hazardous to them. And then making sure any heavy furniture is securely attached to a wall with cords out of reach as well. Those are my biggest ones.
Yeah. And what's one low cost or low effort safety change that delivers a surprisingly high level of protection?
I would say it really depends on the age of the child and the style of the home, but I think having a safety gate here and there can be really helpful for just cordoning off some areas where you you don't want them to be, especially if it's one that you can move around. If it's a pressure mount that you can place at the bottom of the stairs or somewhere else and move it as needed, that can be helpful. For top of stairs, I would only recommend using a hardware installation safety gate that you actually screw or drill into the wall so that it stays sturdy. But yeah, I would say a gate is like a really good visual aid for a child to know that they can't go in that area. And it can give you some peace of mind too if you need a little separation from pets or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And how do you hope that parents use your article and the checklist as a living document that evolves with their child instead of reading it once and feeling like it's a one-time task?
Yeah, we broke it down into different age groups, traditionally by 3-month increments. So I would say every time your child hits a new 3-month mark, I would check the document again and see what you need to do coming up next. And same with milestones. If you notice that your child is starting to walk sooner than you were expecting, perhaps look ahead and start to take some action on the steps coming down the line. I would recommend printing it out and even giving it to other caregivers too who are looking after your child so they have a sense of what's important and what they can do, what feels feasible. And then, of course, there are also child safety experts that you can call who can come to your home and help assess areas of risk or hazard. And those resources are listed at the bottom of that checklist as well.
That's awesome. And you work at the intersection of data and real life. How do you balance statistics with real life, the reality of parenting that is all over the place and very unpredictable?
I'm a working parent myself. I have 2 kids. I know firsthand how difficult it can be to stay on top of everything you need to do for your family and the rest of your life. So I would say don't aim for perfection. As, parenting, you're never going to get close to perfection. It's just about making safer choices that fit with your everyday life and routines. So I personally try to take a really non-judgmental approach in my reporting and writing. I never want to tell parents, here's exactly what you have to do. Here's what you could never do. I just try to, make suggestions that will help them make the best decisions for their own family.
Yeah. And what is a safety myth that you'd love to lovingly retire once and for all?
I think that simply that baby proofing means you have to like build a bubble around your house or your child. You don't have to, go to great lengths to think of every possible scenario that could happen and take steps to prevent it from happening. But just making spaces safer for your child, especially when they're young, can go a really long way in helping
Mhm.
you prevent injury down the line, making it safe for them to explore and have, potential avenues for fun and safe play without risk can help you reduce your stress levels too.
All right. Well, you've given us quite a bunch of great information. As I mentioned, I love the article so much, and I hope all the listeners will take it, print it out, and keep it with them. But if you could leave parents listening today with one thing about keeping their kids safe, what would you want them to remember when they turn the episode off?
I would say that it starts with taking small, thoughtful steps when you're baby proofing, that you don't have to build your safest home overnight. You can take your time. You can, do it in 3-month increments. You can do it room by room, even, but just doing what you can when you can is all that matters.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That is going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. If there's one thing I hope that the listeners take away from today, it's this: keeping our kids safe is not about catching every possible risk. It is about staying one step ahead with intention and grace. Parenting will always involve scrape knees, surprises, and moments we wish we could rewind. But knowledge gives us confidence, and confidence gives us peace. So thank you very much for giving us all that information.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to be here.
Yes. As always, thank you for spending time with us today on The Running Wine Mom. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a mom who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom _. And Jessica, where can the listeners find you?
Sure. You can follow my reporting at cr.org/baby, and you can find me on LinkedIn under Jessica Dargenio Waller.
Awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.